Ibrahim Traoré's forbidden Masterplan. The secret Africa was never meant to know. Wait, before you scroll past, let me ask you this. What if I told you that right now, deep in the heart of West Africa, a young soldier turned leader is holding in his hands a blueprint so powerful, so transformative, that it could change not only the destiny of Burkina Faso, but the future of the entire African continent? What if I told you that this plan is so threatening to the powers that be, so dangerous to the global order, that those who benefit from Africa's suffering are doing everything in their power to keep it hidden? This is not a fairy tale. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the real, unfolding story of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a story the world doesn't want you to know. For decades, Africa's story has been written by outsiders. The land is rich, but the people are poor. Gold, uranium, oil, and fertile soil lie beneath African feet, but the wealth flows outward, enriching foreign capitals while African villages struggle with hunger and poverty. A continent that should be leading the world is instead treated as a supplier of raw materials and cheap labor. This is not by accident, it is by design. And Burkina Faso, a small landlocked country in the Sahel, has been one of the biggest victims of this design. Foreign corporations plunder its resources. International institutions dictate its policies. Western powers decide its currency, its trade, and even its security. The people are left with little more than promises of aid and development that never truly arrive. It is a cycle of dependence that has trapped millions in hopelessness. And for a long time, it seemed like nothing would change. Until now. Enter Ibrahim Traoré. At just 36 years old, he is one of the youngest leaders in the world. Yet he has shaken the foundations of global politics in ways few could imagine. When he appeared on the scene, the world dismissed him as just another soldier who seized power. But quickly, people realized he was something different. His words carried conviction. His stance carried defiance. His message carried fire. He did not bow to the West. He did not follow the script. Instead, he began writing his own. A blueprint that could free Africa from the chains of dependency and exploitation. This blueprint is not just about giving speeches. It is about action. It is about daring to challenge a system that has ruled Africa for generations. It is about creating a new model of independence. Step by step, piece by piece, Traoré has begun to reveal his vision, and it is nothing short of revolutionary. The first step is economic freedom. For too long, Burkina Faso and many of its neighbors have been tied to the CFA franc, a colonial-era currency still controlled by France. Think about that. In 2025, African nations are still using money printed in Europe, controlled by European banks, and dependent on European approval. How can a nation be free when it does not control its own currency? Traoré understands this. That is why, together with Mali and Niger, he is moving to break away from the CFA franc. They are discussing creating a new currency, an African currency, owned and controlled by Africans. This is not just economics. This is sovereignty. This is freedom. Imagine the power of Africa controlling its own banking system, its own reserves, its own destiny. The second step is security. For years, Burkina Faso relied on foreign troops, especially from France, to fight terrorism. But despite their presence, violence only grew. Villages were destroyed. Lives were lost. People began to ask, whose security are these foreign armies really protecting? Traoré gave an answer by creating the Alliance of Sahel States, a new military and political pact with Mali and Niger. Together, they pledged to defend each other without foreign interference. For the first time in modern history, African nations are standing together and saying, our defense is our responsibility. The third step is resources. Burkina Faso is rich in gold, cotton, and other minerals. Yet the majority of profits flow to foreign corporations. The people who dig the mines often remain in poverty. Traoré has spoken openly about nationalizing key industries, ensuring that Burkinabe wealth benefits Burkinabe citizens. This is radical. This is dangerous, because it threatens billions of dollars in Western profits. But it is also just. How long can a nation be robbed of its own wealth before it stands up and says, enough is enough? The fourth step is food. Traoré understands a simple truth. A nation that cannot feed itself is not free. For decades, Africa has been made to depend on imports, food aid, and foreign-controlled markets. This dependency keeps it weak. But Traoré is turning to local farming, supporting agriculture, and pushing for self-sufficiency. He knows that when Burkina Faso can grow its own food, it cannot be starved into submission. And the fifth step is youth. Africa is the youngest continent in the world. More than 60% of its population is under the age of 25. Yet leadership has long been dominated by old men, clinging to power and repeating the same failed policies. At 36, Traoré represents something new. He is closer in age to the population he leads. His vision is not about clinging to the past, but about empowering a new generation to take responsibility, to dream bigger, to lead differently. These steps form the outline of what many are calling a forbidden master plan, a vision for Africa's freedom that challenges everything the world powers want to maintain. Because if this plan succeeds, it won't just be Burkina Faso that rises. It will inspire an entire continent. It will create a chain reaction. Think about it. If Burkina Faso can be free of the CFA franc, so can Senegal. If Burkina Faso can nationalize its resources, so can Congo. If Burkina Faso can stand without foreign troops, so can Nigeria. And if the youth of Burkina Faso can lead, then the youth of Africa can lead too. This is bigger than one man. This is bigger than one country. This is a wave, and waves cannot be stopped once they rise. Of course, the risks are real. History reminds us of that. Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Muammar Gaddafi, all visionary African leaders who dared to defy the system. They dreamed of independence. They dreamed of unity, and for their dreams they paid the ultimate price. Assassinations, coups, smear campaigns. Their stories were cut short, but their ideas live on, and today those ideas are being carried forward by a new generation, embodied in Ibrahim Traoré. The question is, will history repeat itself, or will this time be different? The difference today is that Traoré is not alone. He is part of a larger alliance. He is backed by millions of young Africans who are tired of being exploited. He is connected to a global world where information cannot be silenced as easily as before. Every speech he makes goes viral. Every move he makes sparks debate. And that visibility may just be his greatest shield. Because while you can kill a man, you cannot kill an idea whose time has come. And so here we are, watching history unfold in real time. What does this mean for you? It means that you are not just a spectator. You are part of this story. Whether you are in Africa, in the diaspora, or anywhere else in the world, you are witnessing the beginning of a new era. You are seeing a continent refuse to be silent. You are seeing a leader dare to dream. Picture a village in Burkina Faso. The sun is setting. Children are playing. Farmers are returning from the fields. For decades, their lives have been the same. Hard work, little reward, broken promises. But now, there is a spark. For the first time, their leader is telling them that their gold is theirs, their land is theirs, their future is theirs. Can you imagine what that means to them? Can you imagine what that means to Africa? This is the turning point, and you are living through it. The media will not tell you this story in full. They will twist it. They will bury it. They will frame Traoré as a threat, a dictator, a problem. But you know better. You know that behind the headlines lies a truth that cannot be hidden forever. And that is why this story must be shared. Because whether you support him or not, whether you agree with him or not, one thing is undeniable. Ibrahim Traoré is rewriting Africa's story in real time. So here is my invitation to you. Do not just watch this passively. Be part of it. Hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with someone who still thinks Africa has no voice. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Traoré's vision. Because history is being made. And when the world looks back, you will want to say, I was there when Africa began to rise. This is not just another news story. This is not just another political headline. This is the forbidden master plan of Ibrahim Traoré, and the world was never meant to know. The story does not end with the forbidden master plan. In fact, it is only just beginning. Because once a seed of change is planted, it either dies in the soil or it grows into something unstoppable. And right now, that seed planted by Ibrahim Traoré is growing, spreading its roots across Africa, shaking the very foundations of global politics. What makes this moment so historic is not just the courage of one man, but the awakening of an entire people. For too long, the African youth have been told that they are powerless, that their destiny must be written in European capitals, that their future must depend on the goodwill of foreign donors. But something is changing. The speeches of Traoré are not just echoing in Ouagadougou. They are reverberating in Dakar, in Lagos, in Accra, in Johannesburg. They are reaching African students in Europe, African workers in America, and African diasporas scattered around the globe. A new consciousness is being born, and this consciousness is dangerous, not to Africans, but to the powers that have benefited from Africa's silence. Because when a people wake up, they stop begging, they stop depending, they stop accepting chains disguised as aid packages and development loans. They begin to demand ownership. They begin to demand respect. They begin to demand control of their destiny. This is the nightmare of those who profit from Africa's poverty. And this is why the world is paying such close attention to Traoré. He is young, but he carries with him the spirit of Thomas Sankara, the courage of Patrice Lumumba, the boldness of Muammar Gaddafi. The question is no longer whether he can succeed, but whether Africa can protect him long enough for his vision to take root. But let us pause here and ask, what exactly makes this forbidden master plan so powerful? Why is it seen as such a threat? To understand this, we need to step back and look at the deeper mechanics of global power. For centuries, Africa has been kept in a position of dependence through three main levers: money, security, and resources. Whoever controls these controls the continent. The CFA franc kept West Africa's money tied to France. Foreign military bases kept African security tied to Western armies, and multinational corporations kept African resources tied to Western markets. This triple lock has been Africa's cage. But Traoré's blueprint attacks all three at once. First, money. Imagine the shockwaves if African nations abandoned the CFA franc and created their own currency. It would mean that for the first time in decades, West Africa would be free to set its own monetary policy. No more waiting for Paris to approve spending. No more foreign vetoes over budgets. No more colonial strings. This would not just be economic liberation, it would be psychological liberation. It would say to every African child, we are not poor, we are rich, and our wealth belongs to us. Second, security. For years, Burkina Faso relied on French troops, American drones, and United Nations missions. Yet the violence never stopped. Instead, many Burkinabe came to believe that foreign armies were not there to solve the problem, but to maintain it. Traoré understood this. By forming the alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger, he created something that had never existed before, a purely African military pact, independent of foreign powers. It is not just about fighting terrorism. It is about fighting the idea that Africa must always depend on outsiders to defend itself. Third, resources. This is the most sensitive, the most dangerous, the most explosive part of the plan. Because Africa's resources are the lifeblood of the modern world. The uranium from Niger powers French electricity. The cobalt from Congo powers your smartphone. The gold from Burkina Faso fills global markets. If these resources are taken back under African control, the entire world order changes. Traoré has said clearly, Burkina Faso's resources must serve Burkina Faso first. And if other African nations follow suit, the global balance of power will tilt forever. This is why this blueprint is seen as forbidden. Not because it is unrealistic, not because it is harmful, but because it is too powerful, too liberating, too transformative. It is a plan that could free Africa from centuries of exploitation. And that is precisely what makes it dangerous to the global system. But Traoré is not naive. He knows that those who tried this before him faced brutal consequences. He knows Sankara was assassinated. He knows Lumumba was eliminated. He knows Gaddafi was destroyed. He knows the risks. And yet, he moves forward. That in itself is a revolution, because fear has long been the weapon used to keep Africa silent. Traoré is telling Africans that fear must no longer control them. Still, the question remains, how can this vision survive in a world where powerful nations have toppled leaders for far less? The answer may lie in something new, the power of the people and the power of technology. In the past, leaders like Sankara and Lumumba stood almost alone. Their people supported them, but the world rarely heard their voices. Information was controlled. Propaganda was easy. Lies spread faster than truth. But today, in the age of social media, every speech, every move, every declaration spreads in minutes across the globe. When Traoré speaks, millions hear him instantly. When he acts, the world reacts. This visibility is his shield. Because while they may silence a man, they cannot silence a million voices shouting his name. And here is where you come in. This is not just a story for history books. It is a living story. It is happening right now, and you are part of it. Every time you share a video, every time you talk about this vision, every time you challenge the narrative, you are part of protecting it. You are part of spreading it. You are part of making sure the Forbidden Master Plan is no longer hidden, but known, debated, and defended. The bigger this movement grows, the harder it becomes to stop. Because it is not just about Ibrahim Traoré anymore. It is about every African who believes that their land belongs to them, their gold belongs to them, their future belongs to them. It is about a generation that refuses to kneel, refuses to beg, refuses to be silent. Now imagine what this could mean in practice. Imagine an Africa where farmers no longer depend on imported food aid, but feed their own people. Imagine an Africa where young engineers design African technology, powered by African resources. Imagine an Africa where trade happens not in dollars or euros, but in a currency created by Africans. Imagine an Africa where no foreign army is stationed, because Africans defend themselves. That is the future Traoré is pointing toward. But the path is not easy. There will be resistance. There will be sabotage. There will be attempts to divide, to destabilize, to discredit. That is the reality. But there is also something stronger than resistance. There is will. There is unity. There is a fire in the hearts of millions of Africans who know that their destiny is too important to be outsourced. And so the story continues. The question is not whether Traoré's master plan will face opposition. It will. The question is whether Africa will stand firm, whether the youth will carry the torch, whether the diaspora will add their voices, whether those watching from the outside will recognize that a free Africa does not threaten the world, it enriches it. Because a free Africa means a balanced world, a world where no nation is condemned to poverty and no continent is doomed to serve others. So here we are, at the edge of history. The Forbidden Master Plan is no longer a whisper, it is a roar. The only question left is, will it be silenced or will it grow into a storm that reshapes the world? And you, watching this now, are part of the answer. You are not just an observer. You are part of the movement. You are part of the history. You are part of the voice that can make sure this story is not buried, but told, remembered, and carried forward. So do not stop here. Be the messenger. Be the witness. Be the amplifier. Because this is not just about Ibrahim Traoré. This is about Africa. This is about freedom. This is about the future. And when the world finally wakes up and realizes that Africa has risen, you will be able to say, I saw it, I shared it, I stood with it. This is not just content, this is history. This is the continuation of a dream that began long ago, carried by Sankara, Lumumba, Nkrumah, Gaddafi, and now reborn in Traoré. The dream of a free Africa, the dream of a proud Africa, the dream of an Africa that no longer asks for permission, but takes its rightful place in the world. This is the Forbidden Master Plan, and now you know.